Okay, so this is the Scribe. We're going to do a Scribe line here. And on the surface plate, we use the surface plate here for inspection and occasionally layout. Generally when you run the CNC equipment, you don't do layout as often, or sometimes very rarely would you use Dicom on a layout. You do use it quite often on the lathe when you want to make sure a surface is cleaned up, but oftentimes you can just see that visually as well. So I've cleaned off my surface plate with acetone. I use acetone. They have other cleaners that other people prefer. I think acetone is the one that doesn't leave any residue at all. It evaporates very quickly. So I've cleaned, I'm using this angle block, which is ground flat and perpendicular all the way around. This is my part here that I finished operation 1, which is the 437 diameter, the spot drill reamed hole in the 15-degree angle. I've also done operation 2, where I've faced the backside and center drilled it for a live center. So the next step is step 3, is I'm going to use this Dicom, and I'm going to have a station over by my toolbox, and we're going to keep this Dicom only over in that location. For this video demo, I'm doing it on a surface plate, which is usually not a good idea. I wouldn't normally use a surface plate as a workbench in any form here. So I'm going to Dicom, and this is kind of drying out. I'll make sure that this is working properly when we're back in the lab. So I got to prime this and make sure this blue Dicom is working as well as possible. It's not real thick. And when I return this, I'm going to make sure this cap is on tightly. But that's probably good enough for what I'm doing. I'm going to take my drawing and I'm going to measure the overall length, and I'm going to subtract the length from the end of the part to where the radius is tangent with my 437 diameter. If I subtract that number, I come up with a number. I think it's 1 inch and 625, I believe, is the number. So I'm going to take my height gauge. It has a little Scribe here. We've used this, or will use this also on the layout for our bolt gauge, which is our first mill project. So I'm going to take this down. I'm going to loosen the adjusting nut. Maybe bring the adjusting nut a little bit up so I have some play there. Make sure both of these lock screws are loose. Clean the tip. I'm going to double check and make sure that my 0 is correct here. It reads 0 on the bottom of my vernier gauge. I'm going to take that 0 on the vernier and go to 1 inch, 100, 1 inch, 600, and then I'm going to lock my adjusting nut, and I'm going to adjust up until I reach. It's hard for me to see on next to the surface plate here. I have some magnifying glasses, and I'm going to use these to make sure that looks pretty good. So from here, I'm going to lock the vernier. I'm going to bring this over, and this is a layout where you might need some help, but I'm going to try and do this all by myself. I'm going to hold the part, the stock diameter against my angle plate. I'm going to hold the height gauge, and I'm going to rotate. And it's kind of hard to see on the video, but I have now a Scribe line here. And for the next operation, I'm going to set up, I'm going to turn the diameter down. I'm going to leave a little bit of material for the radius tool to finish this.